the proponents of the administrative state have always tried to legitimize the administrative state, but in order to do that, they have to delegitimize the Constitution.
Now, you've written about this for a long time, and you've written about it as profoundly as anyone, I think. Looking at the growth of this new kind of state in American politics, and it hasn't quite obliterated the older constitutional government, but it's certainly overlaying that government increasingly. Is this our fate, or is there a way out of the state? Is there a way out of the land of administration into which we've been led?
I have made the argument that what animates American politics, and has animated it probably for the last 40 or 50 years, is that Constitution and constitutionalism still remains a fundamentally important force in American politics, both in the minds of the electorate and in the structures of the institutions of our government. And so the legitimacy of the Constitution, although it was attacked by the progressives who understood it as the fundamental enemy, they never could destroy the legitimacy of the Constitution. Mm-hmm. But in order to get, let's say, a kind of consensus in American politics, a kind of consensus that would operate in a way that one or the other is satisfied with, you either have to legitimize the administrative state, and that you have to do that by delegitimizing the Constitution, or you have to reanimate the possibilities of making the constitutional structure work again. And that would require, I think, forcing the institutions to perform the functions that they were meant to perform by the Constitution. They have all made an accommodation so that the legislative branch doesn't do its fundamental constitutional task of deliberation and lawmaking. The executive's task is transformed by the way in which he becomes a defender of the expansion of the administrative state, if he does. And the courts themselves, the Supreme Court particularly, in some ways accommodates to the administrative state by allowing the political branches to perform their unconstitutional function within the administrative state by allowing them to be the arbiters of the meaning of the Constitution. So the political branches say, the Constitution means nothing to us, we'll defer to you. except when the court does something that will make it impossible to run the administrative state, like find the legislative veto unconstitutional. What did Congress do? They just ignored it.
Yes, and continue to.
They continue to, sure.
Now, this is the fundamental problem in our politics that both Nixon and Reagan bumped up against and tried to take on. But would you say they both failed?
I think they both. Nixon failed more dramatically. Reagan succeeded in a way that his successors did not build upon. Reagan succeeded in one fundamental way. He established a constituency that he was able to animate on behalf of the view that government is not the solution to our problem. And that resonated in the American electorate. And so he brought into question at least the extension or the further attempt to extend the grasp of the administrative state, and made it possible to, if not retrench, at least reconsider. But that would have required that his successor, Bush, continue to animate that, to mobilize and keep that constituency alive, that we need to have limited government. We need to we need to be able to show the American people that they don't need an administrative state. And I think after Reagan...
Now, why? The big question is, after, in many ways, what was the shining success of Reagan's administration and his example, so few Republicans, maybe no Republicans who made it to the presidency, followed his example and continued the fight against the administrative state. Why did they all fail to do that?
Well, first of all, I think that the education of all of the presidents after, certainly after the first Bush, who I think instinctively was not, I don't think he understood what Reagan was doing in 80. I don't think he understood it in 88.
He was consistent.
Right. But certainly, all of the presidents we've had subsequently, I see as university people. Mm-hmm. They're formative, their world is shaped by their experience in the university. Obama by the law school, his law school and his university experience. George Bush by his business experience, business administration experience.
George W.
Yeah, George W. I don't think these modern presidents have anything like the theoretical understanding that Reagan had cultivated and developed over the course of his career in preparation for the presidency. And so Reagan had a way of thinking about this that I think was not shaped by the modern university experience. Mm-hmm. And I think in all of the presidencies since, their view is they can't make, in a meaningful way, they can't make American history comprehensible to themselves. Mm-hmm. What is intelligible to them is what passes for the conventional knowledge in the time in which they find themselves. Mm-hmm. So if they read something old, they wouldn't know how to understand it, the way Obama can't understand Lincoln, really. Mm-hmm. He uses Lincoln. But it's clear that the meaning of Lincoln eludes him. All you have to do is make Lincoln a progressive, just as the progressives tried to make whoever it is that they wanted to co-opt, just read them in the way in which they wanted to read them. But Lincoln, but Reagan.
No, Obama uses Lincoln most awfully.
Yeah, he does. But successfully as a rhetorical thing. Yes. Because it makes him appear that he is in the tradition of Lincoln, and I bet you he really does admire Lincoln.
Yeah, oh no, I think he really does. Understanding Lincoln is a very different question, and a question for another time, I'm afraid. Thank you, John, for joining us on The American Mind.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.